I wanted to shoot a brief video and just recap Sunday's class. First, we talked about design thinking as a scalable, iterative process of innovation where we use shared skills in a common language to create innovative results. Underneath the process of design thinking, it's simply a process of alternating diverging and converging processes. If you recall, diverging is expanding, broadening our horizons, seeking new and unusual information. If you recall, I told the story about interviewing a professor who had composted a whale. On the other hand, converging is taking the information that we know and charging towards a solution. The first exercise we ran was observe and understand, which is a divergent exercise. We started with understanding the value of desk research, getting to know our subjects, not just the heritage of their organization, but also the expectations of their role. If you recall, we talked about the call center operator. We had to learn about the garbage industry and the current state of the call center business. Next, we reached out into observation. If you recall from the picture we looked at, we went into the woman's office and watched her in business. And what did we find? Well, we uncovered quite a bit of disconnects between the paper, analog, and the digital computer-based solutions. And that really brought up some ideas that ultimately we would have raised in an ethnographic interview. Which brings us to the skill of interviewing. Focus on interviewing, we're looking at the arc of the interview. And you recall back to Studs Terkel's interview with the taxi driver. We started with the introduction. The introduction just lays out what you're doing, why you're there. Second is the kickoff. Transition from that small talk into the substance of the interview. Third, from that kickoff, you build rapport. And building rapport is when you begin to layer in the information you found in your desk research and your observations, and to begin to show credibility with the subject so that he or she is comfortable to expand in the fourth phase known as the grand tour. In the grand tour, classic question is, walk me through a day. Take me through the process of, tell me what it's like to. Whenever the subject stops talking, pause, let the silence exist, and if you need to, simply ask, tell me more. After the grand tour, turn into reflection. Ask them their own personal feelings about the subject. If you recall in Studs Terkel's interview, he asked the taxi driver, what's your feelings on retirement? And she talked about how she felt retirement was quitting. Wrap up, thank you, and use our most famous question, is there anything we haven't talked about that I should know? The final session we ran was phase 2, insight generation. We did a discovery, diverge, now we're converging into insights. Insights, I recall from your feedback, was a bit challenging, but we learned by doing. And how do we do the work? We do it through a very simple equation. You understand the current state of the users, plus the dilemma or the needs that they have to uncover their wishes, their wants, and or the change they look for. What was an example that we used? The example was the observations that the call center desk was a mix of digital and analog. Customers were complaining that their bills were going up. And the feeling among call center operators was that the drivers in the field weren't doing their job. Lay on top of that their dilemma. Their dilemma, if you recall, the person was a Giants fan, probably wanted to get home and watch the game. Similarly, she had pictures of her family. She probably wanted to get home to her kids. And the time she was away, she didn't want to spend answering complaints. Which gets us to our insight. Our insight in this case is the call center employee is a vital link between the work the drivers do in the field and customers' expectations, and managing those two, and where there's a difference, communicating that to leadership. So again, what are some skills to practice when we're looking for insights? First, we want to look for things that are not obvious. Second, we want to explain interesting patterns. Third, create hypotheses around why things happen. And fourth, make sense of contradictions. I want to thank everyone for their feedback. We'll definitely make the next class more engaging. We're going to be focused on the fun parts. How might we questions, ideation, and experimentation through storytelling. If you have any questions about the homework, please email myself or the GSIs, and look forward to seeing you on the 16th.